All right, George, we're back. Another episode of NOMANG.
NOMANG, we're back.
Last episode, we did some of the cold side, hot side plumbing, intercooler pipes, that sort of thing.
Mounted that up, yep.
What have we done since then?
Okay, so we modified the exhaust housing last time and put the screamer on, put the wastegate outlet onto that. Since then, I've given the exhaust housing and the exhaust manifold to Ryan at Race Coatings. He's given it a good ceramic coat for us. We've got that back, so we're ready to bolt the hot side on. When we originally purchased the exhaust manifold, I got it with a damaged turbo. So in the process, I've given that as well to Kip at ATP. He's repaired the turbocharger for us, just giving it a little tidy. It wasn't that damaged that badly. It was more front wheel damage. Yeah. So he's just pulled it apart, given it a balance, and while he's at it, thrown in a 3582 front wheel, which is the front wheel out of the BABFs and F6s in the FGs. So we've slightly upgraded the turbo, you could say, from the standard FG.
But it is still
a standard turbo.
Ford turbo.
OE Ford turbo, yeah, absolutely. So we've got all the hot side ready to go on. We've had the intercooler plumbing powder coated as well, but we'll do the oil and water lines as well for the turbo and get all that hot side done. Wastegate, screamer, bolt everything up as well. So we'll do that today. And then whatever else comes our way, we'll give it a crack.
All right, let's get into it.
Let's go.
With alloy heads, usually when putting nuts and bolts in these things and studs and that, it's always good to just run the tap through just to clean the thread up. Makes life a little bit easier, mostly with putting studs in as well, because if a stud binds up, mostly on the alloy, you can start pulling threads and that. So
you're re-tapping them?
Yeah, just giving them a clean up, just giving it a bit of a tidy up. And as you can see, there's always going to be some crap in there, you know. So always like just giving them a good little tidy up, just with some oil or anti-seize or something, and then we'll end up running the anti-seize on the studs as well. So being an in-canal stud, so when the stud goes in, if they ever need to come out, they come out quite easy without having to pull the thread and damaging the cylinder head. So it's sort of a long-term thing that we're doing, yeah, just preventative.
Yeah, you can see all the shit on
You see all the shit that just comes out of it, you know, and that's just cleaning the thread up. And now the difference is that when you put that stud in, it's going to go in like butter, do you know?
Yep.
Hot knife through butter. It's just going to go in nicely, not going to give us any grief. It's just little stuff like that which makes your life a whole lot easier if you have to pull the stuff. Let's be honest, the stuff's going to be coming off. We're going to be motors, whatever. So, you know, you want to make sure that...
Well, some of the comments, George, is going to throw a rod after
I'm sure it will.
First pass.
That's fine. That's fine. That's why the engines are cheap. We'll replace it. It doesn't bother me.
You know, we should have just left the Ecotech in there because these are garbage.
Well, I had an idea for our next project car after this, which I think for the Ecotech guys will be a blessing, and for the Ford guys, a disaster.
Some Mang powered in a Falcon.
Yeah, AU.
AU.
Because you know how the AU came out with the Intech?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, we can make it Incotech. Incotech, yeah.
It's funny because the AU was, well, the most hated Falcon ever made, and
now become a cult.
Now it's a bit of a cult classic.
Absolutely, go figure.
You can still buy them for like $3 on Gumtree.
Guys are giving you $3 to take it. Okay, so that's how much crap has come out of the cylinder head, right? Now, if you look at where the shank ends up sitting, we're sort of just on the edge of all that crap getting pushed to the back of the cylinder head, and then wrong way. Even better. Yeah, there you go. So the shank's going to butt up against the cylinder head. That stuff's going to get stuck in the back of the cylinder head, and this stud won't actually do the right job of butting up against the shank. So that can work its way loose because there's nothing really holding it bar the tension of the nut. So we want to make sure that bottoms out and tension's up on the shank.
But they're not budget studs, George. You could have done it cheaper. This is not a budget build with those studs.
We could have used some plastic studs. They're real cheap. No, they're not. They're not a cheap thing. But look, there's one thing about budget and there's one thing about doing shit properly and using a quality product to save you from spending more money in the future. They say a poor man pays twice. good shit ain't cheap and cheap shit ain't good.
100%.
So call me Confucius, but hey.
You've given the rails a bit of a lick as well, mate.
Yeah, I'm sure keen observers, or ones that probably would have commented on how clean the car was, might have eventually seen last time while we were playing in this area that it's obviously had over time some brake fluid drop and sit on the rails, and obviously eaten the paint away, and then a bit of surface rust has developed. So I've done the right thing, gave it a rub back and masked it up, and just gave it a hit with a bit of stone guard, just for a bit of strength, I think, more than anything, and just pretty much the area you sort of won't see, just painted it black so it blends in better with the rest of the stuff down the bottom. So yeah, just give it a little tidy up, make it a little bit neater. Black and white theme's doing really well, actually.
How tight do you put the studs in?
Well, I'll go hand tight all over all of them, and then I'll just literally nip them up. Just give them a little, just so it seats on that shank more than anything. So that's bottoming out on the shank now, and then I'll go over and I'll just give them a little nip up. A little bit of sealer on that, just for safety's sake. A nice little tidy up. We don't have to, but we will. Ford don't even run a gasket on the see, it's had a leak there before.
Yeah.
Very common.
Yeah,
that's where the studs help.
They don't run
a turbo to manifold gasket.
No.
So what we will do is now we'll just run a little bit of this.
As you can see, it's a bit second hand.
Yeah.
It should be
budget.
right.
Well, it's metal, man. It doesn't wear
I
out.
know.
I could get another one for 50, 60 bucks, whatever they're worth, but for what it's worth.
Looks a bit grubby, but still does the same thing.
Yeah, it does the same job, yeah. Now the one thing we want to do is just clean the edges up so nothing runs into the cylinder head. Alright, so I just took the intercooler piping off so that we've got a little bit more room to put the turbo on. Then we can clock the compressor housing where we want. So we'll go back down, we'll bolt the turbo on, put the gate on, put the screamer on, get everything ready there.
Did you say screamer?
I said screamer, that's the one. So yeah, we'll do all that, and then we'll come back underneath, put all the piping back on, and see where that leads us.
Oh, this is the new, the current generation.
Yeah, the Gen 5 before, obviously the new
Gen V, Gen 5.
Yeah.
Don't call it the wrong thing, whatever you do. So what are we doing here with the wastegate?
Okay, so what I'm trying to do is I figured out where I want the hose outlets to come from. Which will be from underneath, only because with the dump pipe so close here, if there's any hoses that come along, I don't want them touching the exhaust and possibly deteriorating and hole and wastegates and overboost and stuff like that. So just for safety's sake, we'll run the lines underneath, and then run them up the rail and out of harm's way pretty much. So we're just trying to just reseal everything, make sure it's all nice and tight.
So mate, we've just got the hot side on here. What are we up to?
Okay, we're going to now do all the oil and water lines. We could use the factory stuff, but because of the way that the car's coming up and the way that it's looking, and we want it to look nice, so I thought we'll ditch majority of the factory lines, and we'll make our own using some good speed flow fittings, hoses, some black braid stuff. And doing some custom stuff along the way, making it look nice, smick. So yeah, so we're gonna we'll start doing all the oil and water lines now. We'll use some fittings and work out which way we're gonna run them and route them and make it all usable. And I've got some fittings here we can get started on, and we'll give it a crack, I guess.
So George, this is one of the water lines, yeah?
Yeah. So we've done the oil drain now. Now we're moving on to the water feeds for being a ball bearing unit. The turbo being ball bearing, they require water in, water out. So this is one of the units that we've had to make because it's a gas engine. It didn't have the outlet for the turbo on the water pipe for the heater hoses, like the heater water pipe. So I think in our last episode we showed the water pipe that's been modified with a -6AN outlet, and that was for this hose here. So we'll fit that up, and then we'll concentrate on the other side, I guess, and go from there. So I've got a T-piece off this heater hose, which will run into the turbo. So we've got the lower side sorted, right? So you've got high side and the low side. So you've actually got a transfer passing of water. So it actually flows. If you do 2 fittings off the low side, it's not going to flow. Yes. So you need a top and a bottom. So we've got one coming off the heater hose, which is going to go to underneath the thermostat, and then one coming off the water pump on the bottom, which is pretty much as per factory. The only thing is we've modified them with some AN fittings and stuff like that to make it look a bit prettier. So, and obviously in this bay it's a bit different. So yeah, we've modified it to look a bit nicer and pretty much as per OE specs anyway.
So this oil line, George, I commonly see people do an aftermarket version of this, but they run it around the front of the engine, and in short, it looks shit out.
Well, what happens is, because they usually have the factory water line, which comes off here, a lot of guys run the aftermarket braided option, and they cable tie it, and there is dress up kits for them, which are being released. But
you look at an engine bay, and your eyes are drawn to lines,
first thing you see,
hoses and pipes. That's not good.
It's the first thing you see. So what I've decided we do, and it helps with the budget side of things. I know we've probably lashed out on some other fittings, so we'll save where we can, I guess. So what we're going to do here is put some Fabby skills to the test, and we're going to run majority of the oil line. But what we've done is, I've run an aftermarket or a different version of the oil filter block. We've put a filter on there. And then what we're going to do is we're going to run this oil line with a steel weld-on fitting to suit that. And we're going to get that on there and get that done. And then that should be nice and neat. We'll send that off as well, get powder coated. Right, and then hopefully it blends in with all the other black stuff and doesn't stand out as much. You won't even see it. So hopefully we can get this done today, and by the next episode we'll be all nice and black, and you won't even see a thing. So let's give that a try and see how we go. Well, guess what, mate? That's some hose clamps now. She's done. Cooler plumbing's all done. Hot side's all done. Dump pipe's half done. We're almost pretty much done with the dump pipe. We can finalise that, then send that off to go get ceramic coated as well at Race Coatings. All this side's done. Once we finalise all those oil lines, get the oil line back powder coated, we'll bolt everything on. Then we can start putting the inlet manifold on. Actually, I lied. Before we put the inlet manifold on, we need to put a starter motor in there and a surge tank, which we're going to run a twin pump surge tank on the rail, similar to what they do in the Falcons.
Yeah.
So we'll be doing something like that as well. So yeah. So this side, apart from boost controller, some hosing for the boost controller, is pretty much done.
So the factory Fords run, I guess, like a header tank style for the cooling system.
Yeah,
they're going to replicate something simple.
Yeah, we'll simplify it a bit so we don't have to run a header tank. So what we'll do is the Ford guys do it as well to clean the bay up a little bit. We'll just weld a radiator cap outlet on top of the thermostat housing. As you'll notice, or most guys might notice, this outlet faces forward. This one's off the off like the earlier model EBED stuff, which comes forward. So we'll end up having to modify the radiator with the outlet here to meet up with that, and a nice little 90. It just keeps the hose a little bit neater rather than coming out the side and so forth. So just another little sort of thing that we're doing to make it look neat and tidy. So it's not the FG or BABF outlet, because the outlet comes on the side on those. We're running the earlier model one, which comes there. So we'll remove this setup as well, weld that on, weld all that up, tidy all that up, powder coat that black as well, and they'll just blend in with all the other stuff that we're doing. So hopefully it looks just as good. Just try and figure out the intake, not that it's super complex. I've got a disco.
Sound flat.
So yeah, I think what we'll do is we'll try to maybe cut that at a 45, either go straight or possibly face it down a little bit, just give us a bit more clearance for the bottom radiator hose. Want to make sure we've got enough room to swing it around and it doesn't rest up against each other. But we've managed to finalise most of the dump pipe. Oil and water lines are done, all the hot sides pretty much sorted. We can get started on exhaust next time too. That's obviously something we can say for another episode. But yeah, we're getting there. It's happening, slowly but surely. We're getting there.
All right, George, that's it for today's episode. Now, it probably doesn't look like we've done heaps of work,
No.
but we actually have. A lot of these things are just tedious, fiddly, and can be time consuming.
Very time consuming, yeah.
Yeah.
Mostly when you're doing, tapping of the studs and stuff like that, when there's like 12 of the bastards, you know what I mean? So it takes time, but yeah, like you said, doesn't look like we've done a lot, but we've actually made good progress.
Yeah. A lot of the little jobs are done now. To be honest, it's a case we're halfway through the intake.
Yeah.
I'm not going to bother finishing that off today.
Nah.
And the inlet side's really just done.
Yeah.
It's just all off so that we can do these
Yeah,
these pipes.
we want to do we've left the intake off so we can do the oil lines, and then we can, once we get the pipe powder coated and cleaned up, we can finalise it. Then once we nip it all up, and then we wanted, like I mentioned, we wanted to do the fuel system down there too. So we sort of have to leave it off till the very end.
Yeah.
So once we do all that stuff, put the fuel line, put the surge tank in, run all the fuel lines, run all the relays and stuff like that. So there's a bit involved before we start bolting everything on and making it look more complete. But hot side's on. That's the beauty. That side's all done. That's not coming back off. We've started the dump pipe. We can now move towards finishing off the rest of the exhaust, which is something we want to get done sooner rather than later. Finish off that intake, possibly make up an airbox, and we can start with some wiring. And we need a radiator, figure out the lines, hoses, thermo fan, how much room we got for the fans, trans coolers. It adds up.
When you start talking like that, it's actually a lot of work.
There's still a bit more work to do, but I'm more.
It's coming along well though.
It is, and it's up. I built it to we're building it to my standards or to our standards, or making it look nice. We're trying to represent what we do, and
There haven't been that many hurdles.
no, it's been smooth sailing. Really, it's been smooth sailing, and that's the beauty of it. It is a simple conversion.
It is.
So, but because it's been so simple, it gives us obviously time and patience to do other things to make it look nicer too. So we could have kept costs down by using all the factory pipes, lines, stuff like that. Fair enough, but we've also wanted to do it to our taste.
Even as we've been going, like you said, we've been powder coating a few things. Those little things make a big difference when it all comes together at the end.
And once you sort of do one thing, you can't just leave it at that. It's like, we've got to do this as well. And it's a bit of a snowball effect, but it's for the sake of the look of the car. So at the end of the day, the outside's a relatively clean car. It's going to look pretty relatively standard. Pop the bonnet. That's where
but it'll look nice and neat. But it won't. It'll look fairly basic in a way.
Yeah, absolutely.
Simple,
it's nothing special.
Clean.
It is nothing special. It is the best term for it is clean. Cleanliness is next to godliness, they say. So, and maybe a Barra is up there. So,
all right. Until the next episode of Project NOMANG.
We're out.
That's it.
Done. See you guys.